politician and former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher was born Margaret Hilda Roberts on the 13th of October 1925 in Grantham, Lincolnshire. Thatcher's father, Alfred, was a local businessman, and it was his occupation that gave her the grocer's daughter tag. Alfred, a member of the town's council, introduced Thatcher to politics and taught the future leader her strongest trait, to always stand up for what you believe in, no matter what other people think. Thatcher attended Grantham Girls' High School before going on to study chemistry at Somerville College at Oxford University. She graduated a second-class honours student in 1947, becoming a research chemist in Colchester and then Dartford for 4 years, whilst retraining to become a barrister. In 1950, Thatcher turned her hand to politics and ran for the Conservative Party for Dartford in the general election. The female politician, then a rookie, ran again 18 months later in the 1951 election, however was unsuccessful on both occasions. Margaret met Dennis Thatcher in 1951 and married the businessman 2 months after her loss. A year later, Thatcher gave birth to twins, Mark and Carol, and took a break from politics altogether, returning later in the decade. In 1959, Thatcher became a Conservative Member of Parliament for Finchley in North London, retaining her seat through to 1992. Her first parliamentary post came in 1961, when she was appointed Parliamentary Under-Secretary for Pensions and National Insurance in Harold Macmillan's government, marking the start of her rise to the top. From 1964 to 1970, during Labour's time in office, Thatcher served in a number of positions in Edward Heath's shadow cabinet. In 1970, Heath became Prime Minister, and Thatcher was appointed Secretary for Education. She found her position frustrating due to the difficulty in communicating with Heath, and is remembered as the milk snatcher following her decision to abolish the universal free school milk scheme. After the Conservatives were defeated in 1974, Thatcher successfully challenged Heath for the leadership of the party, replacing him the following year. Thatcher won her debut general election, becoming the first female Prime Minister of Britain in the immediate aftermath of the Winter of Discontent in 1979.
Where there is discord, may we bring harmony. Where there is error, may we bring truth. Where there is doubt, may we bring faith. And where there is despair, may we bring hope. And to all the British people, howsoever they voted, may I say this: now that the election is over, may we get together and strive to serve and strengthen the country of which we are so proud to be a part.
Thatcher took over a country in bad health, suffering from economic and political turmoil, and it was her approach in restoring Britain's health that characterised her controversial time in office. Thatcher's first move was to battle the country's recession, and she started off by raising interest rates to control inflation. One of the most contentious elements of her premiership was the decision to close Britain's traditional industries through privatising social housing and public transport, and attack labour organisations such as the Miners' Union. Inflation decreased, but unemployment increased.
This was the biggest mass picket in South Yorkshire since the strike began. There were at least 6,000 miners, perhaps many more, and they stretched back as far as the eye could see. Facing them were 700 policemen in full riot gear, with another 500 waiting close by.
In 1982, Thatcher faced a military challenge in the shape of the Falkland Islands. On the 2nd of April, Argentina invaded the British territory, and the Prime Minister quickly responded by declaring war.
I must tell the House that the Falkland Islands and their dependencies remain British territory. No aggression and no invasion can alter that simple fact. It is the government's objective to see that the islands are freed from occupation and are returned to British administration.
Argentina surrendered 2 months later. Thatcher's success in the Falklands won her Conservative Party a landslide victory in the general election of 1983. She spent her second term in office fighting a war closer to home, the Irish Republican Army. In 1984, whilst attending the Conservative Party conference in Brighton, the IRA attempted to assassinate Mrs. Thatcher in her hotel room.
At 2:54 a.m. on Friday, October the 12th, 1984, the Irish Republican Army tried to assassinate the entire British cabinet. They almost succeeded. A bomb had been placed inside the Grand Hotel in Brighton, where most leading members of the Conservative Party were staying during their annual conference. 4 people died, many more were badly injured. It was the most devastating terrorist attack ever launched against British politicians.
The Prime Minister escaped and insisted that the conference continue, giving a speech the following day. In foreign affairs, Thatcher developed a political marriage with Ronald Reagan, the President of the United States. A series of common policies and show of public support enlarged the significance of the special relationship. Thatcher and Reagan were united in their mistrust of communism, and the Soviet Union had dubbed her the Iron Lady in her earlier years.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you tonight in my red star chiffon evening gown, my face softly made up and my fair hair gently waved. The Iron Lady of the Western world.
However, Thatcher went on to become a key player in the end of the Cold War, welcoming the rise of reformist Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. In December of 1984, the Prime Minister said, "I like Mr. Gorbachev. We can do business together." The Conservative won an unprecedented third term in office under Thatcher in 1987. The Prime Minister divided her party towards the end of the 1980s as a result of her efforts to implement a fixed-rate local tax, labelled the poll tax, and her opposition to any closer integration with Europe. On the 2nd of November 1990, under great pressure, Thatcher resigned and left Downing Street for the last time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're leaving Downing Street for the last time after 11.5 wonderful years, and we're very happy that we leave the United Kingdom in a very, very much better state than when we came here 11.5 years ago.
Thatcher was appointed to the House of Lords soon after leaving office, where she wrote about her experiences in the Downing Street years and the path to power. The former Prime Minister's health began to deteriorate, however, and the personal loss of her husband, Dennis, left a great void in her life. Thatcher's public appearances became less frequent, although Meryl Streep's portrayal of an elderly Baroness Thatcher in The Iron Lady reopened the controversies of her time in office.
Watch your thoughts, for they become words. Watch your words, for they become actions. Watch your actions, for they become habits. Watch your habits, for they become your character. And watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. What we think we become. My father always said that. And I think I am fine.
Margaret Thatcher died of a stroke on the 8th of April 2013 at the age of 87. The former Prime Minister's death prompted a series of tributes from the world of politics. Barack Obama said, "As a grocer's daughter who rose to become Britain's first female Prime Minister, she stands as an example to our daughters that there is no glass ceiling that can't be shattered." The current Prime Minister, David Cameron, led the tributes in Britain.
Today, we in the House of Commons are here to pay our own tributes to an extraordinary leader and an extraordinary woman. What she achieved, even before her 3 terms in office, was remarkable. Those of us who grew up when Margaret Thatcher was already in Downing Street can sometimes fail to appreciate the thickness of the glass ceiling that she broke through, from a grocer's shop in Grantham to the highest office in the land. At a time when it was difficult for a woman to become a member of Parliament, almost inconceivable that one could lead the Conservative Party, and by her own reckoning, virtually impossible that a woman could become Prime Minister, she did all 3.
However, the official chart position of the Wizard of Oz song, Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, at number 2, outlines the controversial nature of her time in office. On the 17th of April, the chimes of Big Ben remained silent as Thatcher's funeral took place through the streets of London and in St Paul's Cathedral. Thatcher's death marks the end of an era, but the debate surrounding her premiership continues.